Chris here with High Seas Cruising, and welcome to the Cruise News. All right, so we're going to jump right in, and we are going to talk about an Alaskan city, a popular Alaskan cruise port, where some of the local citizens, they put a petition forward to limit the number of cruise ships and cruise passengers that could visit there yearly, weekly, and daily. However, the city government, well, they have rejected that proposal, and at least for now, it will not be going forward. So in Sitka, Alaska, which said a popular Alaskan cruise port, the popularity of that cruise port grows year after year. Some of the local citizens, they got together, they formed a petition, they had others sign it. It actually only requires 40 signatures to go before the city government, and they were proposing to limit the number of cruise ship guests that could visit the city, claiming that the number of cruise ship visitors already coming, well, they were detrimental to the small community. Now, Sitka, it's a small little city, has about 8,500 residents that live there, about 90 miles southeast of Juneau, Alaska. Now, they just finished the 2023 cruising season, and they're saying that they received 550,000 passengers just in 2023, which is double of what it was pre-pandemic. However, the petition wants to limit that to 240,000 passengers per year. Now, the petition also included a weekly limit of 13,350 passengers and a daily limit that would be based on the local population currently in the town. And the reasoning behind this was to prevent overcrowding in the town, improve safety, and to help maintain Sitka's small town character. Now, the city denied this petition back in September 29th, stating that the petition's plan for enforcing these limits was very confusing and that it was also misleading and incomplete. They didn't go into a whole lot of other specific details. So for now, there's not going to be any limits at Sitka. But, you know, it's not the only place in the United States that is trying to limit cruise ships or has limited cruise ships. You've seen the same issues going on over in Bar Harbor, Maine. They have limits on the number of passengers and ships that can go there. You see the same thing in Key West, Florida. In Monterey, California, they've stopped doing shore services in an attempt to let cruise lines know, hey, you're not welcome here. And as this continues to go forward, you're going to see this stuff. It's going to go to court. It's going to have to be decided by a judge who has the rights, who has the authority. And we're talking about under law here. I understand if you live in one of these small towns, you maybe don't want your town to be, overwhelmed on a daily basis by suddenly, cruise passengers just flooding off the ships. I get that. We're only talking about the legality of it here. Over in Bar Harbor, Maine, a business group has actually sued the town over the limits, claiming that cruise ships are interstate commerce and therefore fall under the U.S. government. They don't fall under an individual town. But that case is pending currently in federal court, and a decision is not expected till sometime later on. So who knows what is all going to happen with that. But for today, no changes to the number of cruise passengers that can visit Sitka, Alaska. Now, while that's happening in Sitka, we jump across the ocean and we have a different story over in Barcelona, Spain, because Barcelona, Spain has effectively banned cruise ships from docking at the city center docks. And their reasoning, the same thing: over tourism and pollution. Now, this goes into effect on October the 22nd. And all cruise ships arriving in Barcelona, Spain are going to have to, instead of docking at the city center, they're going to have to go to the southern dock. And I'm probably going to mess up this name, but it's like Moll Adosat, I think. Molladossat. Now, that pier is south of the city center and is already being used by the large cruise ships. So if you're over there on an Oasis class, any of those large cruise ships, they already have to dock there. But now it's going to be all cruise ships, regardless of size, are going to have to dock there. And it will have effect on cruise passengers. If you docked at the city center, it was just a short walk. Now, if you're docking down at the South Pier, it is a shuttle ride in order to get into Barcelona's city center. Now, they did have a cap of only 10 ships that could be in port at any given time. That number has now been taken down to 7. So it's going to be less cruise ships that are able to dock there at a time, and it's going to be everybody moved south of the city having to take a shuttle to go into town. Now, one of the focuses on this particular move seems to be over the pollution. They want to move it away from the city center. And look, I get that. If there's not shore power, or the cruise ships are not capable of connecting to shore power, then yeah, they sit there at the dock and they do admit, you can see it coming out of the smokestacks on the top of the ships, because they have to remain running pretty much 24/7 in order to keep services, the lights, the air conditioners, and everything working on board the ships. If you're able to connect to shore power, they can shut the engines off and reduce the amount of pollution. So I get where that's coming from, and I think it's a good idea. The more shore power we can put in, the less emissions these cruise ships, spew out into the air. The fact that they're going to cleaner, less polluting fuel, the fact that cruise lines are heading more to, a green technology. This is all really good stuff, but of course there's still a lot of cruise ships out there that are not capable of this, at least not yet, until they're retired and new ones are built. But if you have an upcoming cruise going to Barcelona, Spain, you thinking you were going to dock at the city center, well, just be prepared for that shuttle ride if you're going there after October the 22nd. But what do you guys think? Do you think Sitka is right or wrong in wanting to reduce the number of cruise passengers that visit there, on a daily basis? Do you think Barcelona is right in moving the cruise ships away from the city center to keep that pollution out of there? I get both arguments. I understand exactly what both of them are saying. On our last Alaska cruise, you had a couple of cruise ships in port in some of these small towns, your Skagways, places like that. It did feel overcrowded. There were long lines. At one point, we saw pushing and shoving, all from cruise passengers. So it's kind of easy to see the locals' point of view on this. As cruise passengers, yeah, we love to go and we love to visit these places. Yes, we take them lots of tourism money, we take them lots of tourism dollars, really boost up their economy. But I can see a point where, is the money really still worth it, to have all of that just, land in a small town all at once? So for small towns, I really get it. But you guys let me know what you think. Do you think these places are right, or do you think these places are wrong? Next, we're going to hop over and we're going to talk about Princess Cruise Lines. Princess Cruise Lines, they are making a change on board. Well, they're making a change on board 2 of their ships, because only 2 of these ships currently have the 360 dining experience. So the Discovery Princess and the Enchanted Princess, well, they're the only 2 ships that currently have it. Okay. And what the 360 dining experience is there's a screen that goes all the way around the room, and throughout dinner, it's a 90-minute dinner, and as you're eating the different courses from different places, around the world, the images of where it comes from, places it comes from, is reflected all around on the screen, kind of immersing you into the culture and the flavors of your dinner. And this was a suite perk. So if you stayed in one of the suites, your dinner in the 360 dining experience was complimentary. Occasionally, if there was a seat here or there that might, that came available for that, they would allow people that weren't in suites to purchase to come in and try the 360 dining experience. But with suite guests and it being complimentary, that was really few and far between. But Princess is now saying that they're going to open it up to all cabin types. All cabin types are going to have the availability to book the 360 dining experience. But if you are not staying in a suite, that dinner is going to cost you $149 per person. To book the experience, you go to guest services. Once you're on board the ship, book your reservation. If there's not a spot available, they put you on a waiting list. And if you are in a suite, you can still put your name on the list. You can still book it. You still get it complimentary. So suite guests can still eat there without paying the $149 charge. But the availability is now open to the entire ship. So kind of sounds like to me that you could book a suite, be able to go to the 360 complimentary. But if you don't get that reservation, boom, right up front, there's a chance you're going to get on there and not be able to go to it. So is it still a suite perk if the suite guests don't have priority? Now, this didn't really say whether or not suite guests will have priority to the booking first. I would assume, and it's just an assumption, that yeah, they would at least have priority, maybe a couple of days, a couple of weeks, that they can book prior to the cruise for this particular experience, and then whatever's left over goes to regular cabins. Kind of doesn't read that like that. It kind of reads like it's going to be a free-for-all once you are on board the ship. So we're going to kind of have to see how this works out. This goes into effect here at the end of the month. And once it does, we're going to have to kind of take a look at it, because I'm concerned that this could be a case of they are taking a perk away from suites, throwing it out to everybody on board the ship, which is great that everybody would get, an opportunity to experience it, but it shouldn't be by taking a perk away from one group and then saying, but you can go for $149. What is the point of that unless this dinner is empty every night, which when I was on the Discovery Princess, I asked if I could get a reservation to there. I was willing to pay, but nope, it was full, it was booked, no chance of me getting a reservation. So it wasn't empty on my sailing, so maybe a little, explanation from Princess as to how this is going to affect the suite guests. Is this a removal of their perk and a chance for Princess basically to grab some more money from all of the other passengers on board the ship? Get a little clarification on this, and as soon as we hear more, we'll let you guys know for sure. And finally, we have a policy change from Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. Now, this is only going to be for long cruises. So short cruises, this is not a change for you. This is only for long cruises. And Royal Caribbean says long cruises are 15 nights or longer. So this is going to be your transatlantic. This is going to be some of the specialty cruises. This is going to be your repositioning cruises that this is going to go into effect. And essentially what they're doing is they're changing the final payment due date. They're giving you less time to pay off your cruise. So normally if you take, a 7, 8, 9, 10-day cruise, your final payment due date is 90 days prior to sailing. Well, they're changing this policy for long cruises, 15 nights and longer only, and your final payment due date is now going to be 120 days prior to sailing. Now, if you already have a Royal Caribbean long cruise booked, you've already booked it, you've already put down your deposit, your final due date is not going to change. It is only from new bookings going forward. So if you already have something booked, nothing to worry about, no changes to anything else. But going forward, instead of 90 days, it's going to be 120 days. And it doesn't sound like it's a super big deal unless you're thinking, okay, I'm going to book this cruise and I'm going to have X amount of time. It's a bucket list cruise, X amount of time before I reach final payment due date. Just understand that's been pushed back by 1 month. And it'll notify you that when your final payment due date is when you make your booking. Just kind of something to keep in mind if you're budgeting it out, you're planning it out, thinking you have X number of months, to make that final payment. Just know you now have one less month to count into that. Now, that's not the only change, because they're also making a change to the amount of deposit that is going to be required for longer cruises. So currently a 10-night cruise or longer requires a $450 deposit per person. So now they're going to create a change for that for 15 nights or longer. They say the deposit amounts are going to be higher, but they have not released what the deposit amounts are going to be. So if you book that 15-night or longer cruise, shorter to pay and a higher upfront deposit. Just don't know the exact amount yet. Royal Caribbean hasn't released it, but it's obviously going to be higher than $450 per person. Now that's understand. That's with no special, no deals, no extra fare codes, anything like that. That's just your straight deposit amount. I know that amount can vary depending on how you're booking your cruise, but just the baseline, boop, $450 deposit is also going to increase. So, and that is for any bookings from now going forward. Just something to be aware of if you like those really long cruises on Royal Caribbean. Now, why are they making this change? Royal Caribbean didn't really give an explanation. Like a lot of times when cruise lines make changes, they just don't come out and say, hey, we're making this change and this is exactly why we're making this change. Or if they do come out and say something, it's to benefit all the passengers. This extra charge will benefit you. That's normally what you get. And in this case, really no explanation either. The kind of a best guess is that it's to help fight last minute cancellations. These big long cruises like that, they're actually very popular. They usually sell out very quickly. And if people get all the way to the end, to that 90-day mark, they start canceling last minute because they found a better deal, can't go, plans change, whatever the case may be. Cruise lines are left with unsold cabins that they can't always fill at the last minute for this type of cruise. So by increasing the deposit, by making the final payment due date a little bit earlier, seems to be that their thought process might be that, hey, this will help reduce some of that and help keep these sailings full. People won't book them and go, I'll just cancel it later if I change my mind, that type of thing. So for your average cruise passenger, your weekend cruiser, your 7-day cruiser, none of these changes will affect anything for your cruises going forward. It's only going to be for the extra long cruises, transatlantic, repositioning, and specialty cruises, and just information for you to be aware of. And that's going to be our cruise news for today. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you have, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you haven't done so yet, do me a favor and hit subscribe. It is free to do so. Helps our channel grow. Let you know anytime we put out a new video. Hope everyone out there is having a really great day, and like always, we will see you out on the high seas.